Good morning, Buckeye Nation. It is a matchup Saturday edition. Something new this week as we get you set for the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Oregon Ducks from the Rose Bowl coming up in a couple days. We talk about the rematch that will be at the Rose Bowl, how this offense can stay hot, what that formula is for them to stay hot. We preview the Oregon defense, all that, and so much more this morning on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State
with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today.
Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All-Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Well, welcome in and good morning on another episode, a Matchup Saturday episode on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast. Anthony Moeglin here, getting you set this morning before an absolutely packed slate of football games today. The first one kicks off here in just about 45 minutes. We got a full slate of bowl games, full slate of NFL games. Just an awesome Saturday, and thankfully, it kind of feels kind of nice that the Buckeyes are off on a Saturday, and we can kind of kick our feet up and enjoy some college football as we kind of put our eyes to Wednesday afternoon at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. Anthony Moeglin here on this Matchup Saturday edition of the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast, and we have so much to get to today as we get things. We kind of set the table here for this Ohio State and Oregon rematch, and as people are jumping in this morning, first of all, thank you so much. Whether you're catching this live, or if you're catching it later in the day between games, or maybe prepping later on in the week, we certainly appreciate you jumping in and hanging out with me. And the comments section is already flowing. We got some breaking news, I guess. This is something I'll certainly bring up. But RV, thanks for jumping in. Allegedly, the Oregon defense had the flu during the Big Ten championship game. That's why they gave up all those points to Drew Aller and the Penn State Nittany Lions. Don't know if that's true or not, but certainly love the comment, and certainly if that is true, could have obviously been a little bit of a factor. And if you want to go look at that game specifically, I did a cool little video last night that you can find on our YouTube page where we dove into the details of that game, what Oregon did to attack Penn State on offense, what Oregon's defense did to try to defend Penn State's offense, and how I thought that could equate to what Ohio State does on Wednesday. So go check that out if you haven't. But for everybody else, thanks for jumping in this morning or whenever you're catching this. I certainly appreciate it. So getting this thing kicked off today, this is going to be an awesome rematch. I think the first thing you got to do when prepping for this game is to take a look back at what happened last time. And it's hard to believe it's been so long since Ohio State went out to Eugene to take on the Ducks in Autzen Stadium and was just totally part of an instant classic, 32-31 final. We all know how it really ended with Will Howard sliding down, and that's kind of the image that is kind of plastered in everybody's minds. But what we forget about is how good this offense played. Will Howard was spectacular on the day, and the Ohio State offense really wasn't the problem. You scored 31 points against the Oregon Ducks team, where if you look down the schedule, I mean, this team's 13-0, and here's some of the point totals that they've given up: 14 points, 34 points to Boise State. Now that one looks much more interesting now that Boise State is in the college football playoff. But 14 points to Oregon State, 13 to UCLA, 10 to Michigan State, 0 to Purdue, 9 to Illinois, 17 to Michigan, 18 to Maryland, 13 to Wisconsin, 21 to Washington, 37 to Penn State. So Ohio State's 31 points would rank third in the most that they've given up this year. But that game back in October, first of all, was college football euphoria. It was awesome. It was everything that's great about college football, especially in a day and age when the conversation is all about all the things that are wrong with college football. That day was awesome. It was a perfect setting. Autzen Stadium was rocking. The Buckeyes came in and really gave Oregon everything they wanted. And that has really stuck in the minds, I think, of the national landscape. Certainly when this game got released and as it's gone now from the Vegas standpoint, Ohio State's 2.5-point favorites on a neutral site. They actually were 3.5-point favorites for that game out in Oregon back in October. So interesting little nugget there. But from a a statistical standpoint, the offense was incredible. Will Howard threw for 326 yards, the most he's thrown for this year. He was 28 of 35 for 2 touchdowns. He did have that one interception up the middle of the field that was kind of missed. It was the first drive of the game. It was a great play by the guy, but I thought Will was awesome that day. And from a run game perspective, they were great too. 33 attempts for 141 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. Both Travion and Will Howard actually, Quinshon Judkins punched one across, and then Will Howard got one across the goal line there. So the thing that really sticks out to me from just that statistical, from just looking at the box score of that game, was the balance that Ohio State's had. And now that's something that's been on Ryan Day's mind all the time. He goes, balance is his thing. That's what he wants all the time. And they threw it 35 times. They ran it 33 times. So when you look at that, that's exactly where he wants it to be. And I'm certain that that's going to be where he wants it to be on Saturday. Now, on Wednesday. But I do think that the philosophy on how we do it is going to be very similar to what we saw against Tennessee. And we'll get to that here in just a moment. So the rematch is set this time. Instead of it being in Autzen Stadium, it's going to be at the Rose Bowl. Going to be an incredible environment, and it's going to be really, really cool for this second iteration of the rivalry. So will this Buckeye offense repeat? Now, this can go one of two ways, and I'm going to take it both ways here. The first, can they repeat what they did the first time that these two teams matched up? And what's been sticking in my mind, and you'll continue to hear me say it as I go through this week of videos, is what JT Tuimoloau said. What JT Tuimoloau said after the win against Tennessee, when he was asked about, hey, what's this rematch like? What are you excited for? And he said, hey, we can look at it pretty objectively. He said, Ohio State, we've been getting better. We've been elevating, but you're going to watch the tape and you're going to get prepared for Oregon. They've also been getting better. And he said they've elevated their game. And that was really good perspective, I think, in my opinion, from JT, is like, hey, we've gotten much better for sure, but so is Oregon. And Oregon's playing some really, really good football. They had a really hard schedule, just being that this is their first year in the Big Ten. They had to travel all the way across the country a bunch of times. I know that we don't want to hear that, or we don't want to care about it, but it does make things challenging. You look back to that Wisconsin game where they frankly should have lost, right? But it was a tough environment they had to play in, and they were able to kind of squeak it out. So, for this Buckeye offense, can they repeat what they did the first time in Oregon? And my answer is I think yes. And I don't say that because I'm on an Ohio State show. I say that because the confidence I got from our play caller on Saturday, or from Saturday, is why I say that. I was very, very concerned and nervous about what Ohio State's offense was going to look like against Tennessee, what they were going to do, how they were going to attack, and if they were going to stay stubborn, because I got really, really gun shy after that Michigan game where they just tried to force it up the middle. However, I think that question and that response was answered in spades, because Chip Kelly and Ryan Day had the opportunity to kind of turtle up and go into that shell, but they didn't. They were explosive. They were creative, which was exciting to me. And they did things that were uncharacteristic of their offense to this point. So that tells me that they've adjusted, right? We saw some things that were different than what we've been seeing all year. So that was exciting to me. And they understood where their weaknesses were compared to Tennessee's strengths. So I really was encouraged about what we saw from our play callers, because this offense is going to be different from what we saw in Oregon the first time, right? You obviously don't have Josh Simmons, that offensive line. You don't have Seth McLaughlin, so your offensive line is beat up, and I know that storyline's been beat to death. So yes, I do think Ohio State can repeat their performance from Oregon the first time, and it is because I think they can repeat their performance from Saturday, in being that they'll be very creative from the offensive design. They'll be very creative in getting their playmakers the ball in space, and I think they know now the way to attack any defense with this Ohio State offense is to use your NFL-type players, right? The formula is so simple. It is so easy for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Look to your left, see Jeremiah Smith. Look to your right, you see Emeka Egbuka. Look to your immediate right or immediate left, you see Travion and Quinshon. Get those guys the football in space, and good things will happen. How many times on Saturday did we see Ohio State use a little bit of tempo, which I think is great? allows your quarterback not to think at all, just makes him thinking about, hey, I have to execute this play at this, can't think about the environment, can't think about the lights, all the people wearing orange in here. I just have to think about delivering the ball accurately to the right spot. So I love the use of tempo. However, I also love getting your guys the football in space. And we saw it a couple times in our review of the Ohio State game from the Tennessee game in our film review session. And you can get that. I linked it in the description of this video. So go back and watch a little bit of it. I outlined my favorite 10 throws of Will Howard's day. And one of those schemes that was new was that slide action, right? We talked about it, go into really good detail about what that is. But I think that it was a really good way to go after the man coverage that Tennessee was playing and do it in a creative way using play action and using your speed. Well, guess what? Oregon loves to play man coverage. We saw it last night. Again, that video is linked in the description as well. They played a lot of man versus Penn State. Now, do I think they're going to do that? Maybe, probably not. I don't think they'll major in it because I think Ohio State's receivers are much different, much more talented than what Penn State brings to the table. However, if they do, let's get creative with it. All right, let's figure out ways to get creative. And then if Oregon does sit back in some of their vanilla zones, which we've seen them do a number of times, and again, I went into good detail about it in some of our other videos. But if they are going to sit back in some of that vanilla coverage, look out, because that is so easily schemed up. And if Will Howard's as hot as he was last Saturday against Tennessee, it could be. We could have another big game in the makings for the Buckeyes. So talk about that formula being pretty simple. It is, man. Get your studs the football in space. And who are those studs, right? We talked about Travion, 10 carries for 87 yards, 2 catches for 4 yards. So a really good day for Travion the last time these two teams locked up. Right, Quinshon Judkins, 11 carries for 23 yards. So not as good. Not as good when Quinshon was carrying the rock, but he did have he did have a touchdown. He also had 2 catches for 38 yards. So finding ways to get your running backs the ball in space, awesome stuff. Jeremiah Smith, 9 catches for 100 yards and 1 score. Emeka Egbuka, 10 for 93. So bang, that formula, super simple. You've already done it. Now wash, rinse, repeat. Do it again, because getting those guys the football, making those 4 the main attraction, if you will, the main pieces of the puzzle on Wednesday will prove immense dividends as this Ohio State team looks to attack the Oregon Ducks on defense here. So what does that Oregon defense look like? All right. How do they get after it? What have they done? What have they gotten better at throughout the year? And some of the names we're going to get to here momentarily are familiar faces, guys who had impact games the last time that these two teams locked horns. But from just a statistical, just ripping right down their some of their major stats, points per game, they're giving up 18, which is ranked 9th in the country, which is pretty good. Yards per game, 309. It's ranked 10th in the country, but we know the Ohio State's defense is much less than that. These defenses are on 2 separate levels, in my opinion. Third down conversion, they're giving up 33%, so it's pretty solid. It's in the top quadrant of college football. They're ranked 25th there. And then red zone scoring, they give up 86%. Anytime you get into the red area, 86% of the time you're coming away with points. So not very good from them. So if Ohio State can sustain drives, that tells me that if they get into the red area, they're going to have a really good opportunity points on the board. And by points, I mean touchdowns. Don't settle for field goals. Make sure you're putting up 7 points each and every time you're getting low into that area. From a general defensive perspective, rushing the ball, right? Oregon's rush defense, pretty darn good. They're giving up 132 yards a game, which is good for 34th in the country. And then from a pass perspective, they're giving up 176 yards a game, which is 8th in the country. And how do they get it done? Well, up front, it starts with Mateo Uiagalelei. Some of these names these past couple weeks have been giving me fits. I got Iamaliava by the end of last week. I'm going to get Uiagalelei. Apologize for looking down. I have it written right down in front of me here. But regardless of that, apologies if I mispronounced it. But this guy is a glass eater, man. This guy gets after the quarterback and does it in a really impressive way. 10.5 sacks on the year, 2 forced fumbles. He actually even has an interception, so he's got the ability to drop back. But what concerns me the most about Uiagalelei is 6'5", 270. Like, this is a big dude coming around the edge. And while I say this every week, we talk about the edge rushers, the edge rushers, the edge rushers, the edge rushers. But I have to give credit where credit's due. Donovan Jackson, Josh Fryer have been great. And I think that Donovan Jackson has, well, a couple things. Let's do a quick tangent on Donovan Jackson. He has certainly gotten much better at playing the tackle position. You don't understand how hard it is. And the casual football fan and the casual lineman knower, and I would consider myself one of those, you don't understand how hard it is not only to go from guard to tackle, right? You hear one play, like let's call it, for the last 3 years, Donovan Jackson, when he heard 22 dive, he's done one thing. And now he goes to tackle. Now when he hears 22 dive, he's not doing that certain responsibility. He's doing something completely different because he's 3 spots over playing an entirely different position. So it's not only hard from that perspective, but flipping from the right side to the left side is incredibly challenging. It just flips everything around. It'd be like me telling you you're a right-handed basketball player. All right, for the next 7 weeks, you can only shoot it left-handed and dribble it left-handed. And I know for some, I could be pretty all right at that. I could still get buckets, but for others, it would be really tough to do that. And that's really the case is. So you go from a guard position to a tackle position. So your responsibilities are totally different. And then you go from the right side to the left side. So now your technique is totally different. So couldn't say enough good things about how Donovan Jackson's adjusted and become an impact player for Ohio State at that tackle position. And for the Buckeyes, it's great, right? We've gotten a really good player there. But for him personally, he's going to be looking at draft here in a couple of weeks. Like, this makes him so valuable that he's shown the ability to be an elite guard, but also step out and play tackle. And he's going to have his hands full against Mateo Uiagalelei on Saturday, because this dude gets after it. Last time that he squared up against Ohio State, 2 sacks on the day. So a really good game out of him that October afternoon. My bad, 1 sack on the day, but 2 tackles for loss. So he was in the backfield making plays all over the field. All right, at that next level, the linebacker position, Bryce Botcher, senior, 6'2", 225. He's got 87 tackles on the year, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 pick. And now he did not have the game that we called for last time. He's their leading tackler. He's one of their best players. There's a couple. I don't think Ohio State fans are going to like me saying this, but I think Oregon's social media team does a really nice job. They have some really cool stuff that's come out, and Botcher's definitely their emotional leader on that side of the football. However, he didn't have a very good game against Ohio State last time. Only finished the day with 1 tackle, right? 1 tackle on the afternoon, and that leads me to believe that Ohio State had him just an absolute in a blender, right? They were getting to him on the offensive line when they ran the football. They were throwing away from him, making sure that their impact player had no ability, no chance to make an impact the last time these two teams faced off. So Botcher's going to be in the middle. He wears number 28. He's got a neck roll, and he's going to be all sleeved up. He kind of looks the part. He looks the part. He's a cool player, fun player to watch. But for Ohio State, it's going to be, hey, repeat that performance. Don't let him make a massive impact on Wednesday's game when Ohio State's offense is on the field. All right, let's look at the secondary here. There's 2 defensive backs that I want to key in on, because they're both very, very high on their tackle leads for this Oregon team. And what that tells me, that they give up a lot of catches. First, we're going to look at Tysheem Johnson. He wears number 0, stands at 5'10", 200 pounds. 5'10", 200 pounds. That's little. Okay, that's little in general. That's little compared to me. That's very, very little compared to Jeremiah Smith. So on the year, 64 total tackles, 3 interceptions. So if you do give him a chance to intercept the ball, he will do it. However, he's going to give up a ton of completions. He wears number 0. The guy on the other side, Kobe Savage, wears number 5. And again, 5'11", 205. He's got 61 tackles on the year, no interceptions, just 1 pass broken up. So those 2 guys playing corner, you can attack them. You can attack them with Jeremiah. You can attack them with Emeka Egbuka and find a ton of success doing so. So that gets me really excited, because up front, those guys, they can make an impact. Uiagalelei can make an impact on this game. But when you get to that second and third level, I think Ohio State has the ability, and I think the responsibility, to take advantage of what Oregon does at that second level, and certainly at the third level. I think you saw that first time they were up And I think you're going to look to see it again here. So some keys to the game. I love this. I love this here. We'll pull up some of the predictions that are in the comments. Thank you, everybody, again, for jumping into the comments here, for jumping in and watching with me this morning. If you're catching it live, fantastic. If you're not catching it live, you're catching it tape recorded or later on in the day, awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. So if you're still with me here, Buckeye keys to victory on the offensive side of the football. It's the same story at quarterback. Do not turn the football over. Will Howard, no turnovers his last game. He was incredible. It was one of his better games as an Ohio State Buckeye. And he needs to repeat that. He needs to repeat his past performance from Tennessee. I think his precision was that of a surgeon, man. He was on fire. He was really, really fun to watch. And if he can do that again, Ohio State will never get beat the rest of the season, right? That's the ability that this team has. But to start that, let's get him off to a quick start. We know, and I think that the story on Will Howard is he can be a little streaky, right? If he gets off to a confident start, look out, because he'll get hot. That hand will just catch fire, man, and you're looking at a big day. If he gets off to a shaky start, I think the opposite can be true too. I think his throwing lanes can start shrinking. He can start seeing ghosts, if you will, and making it really challenging. So I think he needs to get off to a hot start. Do not turn the football over. Up front, do your thing, man. Inside that interior, that center guard, compete. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to be competitive, right? Whoever's out there, whatever combination of Saravold and Montgomery and Shabola, whatever combination of those three is at the guard position, compete your tail off. And then up front, Hinsman at center, communicate, do well, and then give your tackles a chance, right? Give Donovan Jackson and Josh Fryer everything that they need to be successful and protecting the quarterback. And then the last key, I think, be creative on offense. Jeremiah and Emeka are going to show up. No concerns with that. However, Chip Kelly, continue to be creative and getting your running backs the ball in space, using the pass game, the short, quick game as an extension of the run. And then let's take the top off these guys. Take it off with Jeremiah. Take it off with Emeka. Hopefully those two can repeat their great performance. And I think if Ohio State does those three things, gets good quarterback play, has an offensive line that's going to compete, doesn't have to be perfect, but competes, and then your play caller continues to be creative, I think it is Bucks in a rout. And I agree with my buddy Mello number 7. Shout out Mello 7. Bucks 42, Quacks 24. That's one heck of a score prediction. I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but I do think that if Ohio State on offense can do those things, they are going to put up a ton of points, because I think points are certainly there to be had. So for this offensive preview, that puts a bow on it. I think we did a good job here of talking through this matchup, what it looked like last time, what it's going to look like here again on Wednesday in the Rose Bowl, and something that we all should be excited about. I encourage you all to jump back into our videos here. I have it linked in our description, but the video I did last night I think was pretty cool, and I think one that we can get a lot of use out of, because we did a film review of Oregon versus Penn State, how Oregon attacked Penn State, how Oregon defended Penn State, and what Ohio State can pull from those clips in that game. So jump in there and learn how coaches and football people watch the tape to go put a game plan together. I wanted to kind of do a little behind the scenes there. So really fun. Go jump in. I think you'll enjoy it here. But for the rest of the week, I'll be back with you tomorrow before the NFL slate kicks off. We're going to do my picks and preview for the college football round 2 as a whole. We'll talk Georgia, we'll talk Penn State, Boise State, we'll talk Texas, Arizona State, which I think is going to be pretty fun. I know a lot of people are kind of writing that one off, but I think Arizona State's got something to them, and I'm excited about them. And then we'll do a high level overview of what I think is going to happen in our game. So that's coming tomorrow. Then on Monday, we'll be back again with the defensive preview, what Ohio State's defense is going to do to Oregon's offense. And then I'm on the road. I should say on the road. I'm traveling out to California on Tuesday. So I'm hoping to do a show from the Rose Bowl on Tuesday. That's TBD there, but we're going to have a ton of content coming your way. Maybe not in show form specifically, but over on our Twitter page. I'm going to be active on Twitter. So get over there at Ohio State on SI. Just roll here. All of our handles are right below me rolling. So get us up on Twitter because I'm going to be posting a ton of content from my trip out there. I want to make you guys feel like you're there if you're unable to make it out. So get over there, follow it, subscribe to the channel, get over to our website, si.com/college/Ohio State. Our team's working really hard to keep you filled with all the content as Ohio State gets set to take on the Oregon Ducks in the Rose Bowl. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out with me this morning on the Ohio State Buckeyes on SI YouTube channel.